Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today is another very volatile day on Wall Street. Can we say that at the very least? Total dollar amount of options that are expiring today is $3.7 trillion. You also have some other derivative contracts as well that are expiring, and that is what is helping to fuel a lot of this downside move. As we know, we're coming off a very hawkish Fed Jerome Powell. Things have not been very good over the past couple of days, but I do think next week we will see greener charts for AMC, and here in this video we are going to be going over exactly why that is in this video, guys. So if that is something that sparks your interest, if you want to make a little bit of money, or you just like the stock, baby, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. And if you guys want to come trade with me live in real time as well, link down below in the description of this video. First things first, guys, let's start off with the box office. So Avatar is a very unique movie, or Avatar 2 I should say, because a lot of movies, just for an example, will go to China, let's say 2 days earlier, and then they'll come to America or go to Europe 2 days earlier, whatever. I'm just making these numbers up here. But Avatar 2 has a unison delivery date. So China's going to get it the same time America is, the same time Europe is, the same time Australia is, the same time freaking Africa is going to, right? So we're going to get a lot more concise numbers, I'll say, but you're also getting a lot bigger preview numbers. For Thursday, the preview ended at $86 million. That is better than some movies have done their whole opening weekend, right? So this is a very good number that is coming out just off of previews for Avatar 2. So this really has me excited to see what these numbers are going to look like coming into next week, because by next week you're going to have some numbers to react to, and it's probably going to be a very bullish outcome for AMC stock. It's hard to see how it wouldn't be, even given the last blockbuster movie that we got, Black Panther Wakanda. Last time that came out, AMC was toting that they had some of the best days ever in their 101-year business history for things like beverage sales and popcorn sales, and just overall was a very positive string of announcements from AMC, and that gave us some of our most positive days. And that is only one reason why I think AMC might rally in this next upcoming week. And considering we are coming off of a very hawkish Federal Reserve and the SEP report, the Summary of Economic Projections, being very bearish, it's hard to say when the markets might actually catch a footing. And from my personal experience and from my just overall sense of where this market is at, the biggest concern is not really the Fed and the Fed tightening. It's Fed tightening leading to a recession. And then how much would earnings fall from there? How bad would companies be affected? That is the number one question. And I think that's why bad economic data over the last 2 days has been pushing the stock market down, instead of the market saying, hey, we got bad economic data, maybe the Fed's not going to raise rates as much. That narrative is going out of the window, guys. So our risk to the downside is becoming a lot more relevant here than the risk to, an upside move. So that can get pretty complicated, but long story short, you're getting bad economic data, which is now bad for the markets. You have a very hawkish Fed that is not going to stop raising rates anytime soon. They're not going to cut rates anytime soon. The markets were expecting both of those things. We did not get that. You're also seeing signs the economy might be heading towards a recession a lot quicker, with the retail sales number that we just got yesterday declining over 100% worse than what we thought the decline was going to be. We were only expecting a 0.3% drop in November. We got a 0.6% drop in November. Now, we want to wait and see. I don't think the full flush out crash event is really going to happen until earnings come out. I think if Apple, if Google, if Microsoft, if Tesla, Nvidia, if all these players are seeing like 10% negative earnings year over year, you're probably going to see a major flush out event. And we already know Apple's earnings are probably not going to be too hot just because their Foxconn factory was shut down for a couple of weeks in the busiest time of the year. So some of this we know, but by and large, markets are still expecting pretty good earnings for this next quarter and for 2023. That is where the real risk is. And if you guys want to be real savvy, you can actually start positioning here once you get a bounce in the markets, because the markets will bounce. I believe probably in this next upcoming week, we've fallen 7, almost 8% in 3 days from the peak to the low, right? From 414 down to 381. That's a almost 8% drop. So you do want to be a little bit cautious here buying puts. You don't want to buy premium at the high end range, but you can get a little savvy and start positioning for earnings nonetheless here very, very shortly. Now, let's get into AMC, and I know I already said that once. Sorry, there's a lot to talk about. Let's get into AMC and what we are seeing here today. You are seeing the cost to borrow numbers that are going up yet again, with shares not really being available to be lent out. The first hour of trading, you've seen 200,000 shares available to be lent out. Then you've seen 0. Then you've seen 60,000, and then you're back to 0. So it's slowly starting to push up these interactive broker cost to borrow rates. This is only one platform, though. Keep in mind, all these other exchanges are going to have their own cost to borrow rates that are similar, but I think likely higher than interactive brokers. Nonetheless, you're sitting at about a 27.5% cost to borrow average. That's up about 4%, almost 5% here today. Cost to borrow max up to about 32%, still up about 5% on the day. And cost to borrow minimum jumping the most yesterday was about 15%, now to 22. Oh my gosh. Sorry, you guys had to hear that. I might take that out. But nonetheless, cost to borrow minimum is up the most, sitting at 22% from yesterday's point at 15%. So that is a rise of about 7%. Looking good here. Short interest up another 0.5% again today, sitting at about 19%. And you are seeing about 500,000 shares that are sold short today, guys. So this is one of those situations where the hedge funds, in my opinion, can't win. Unless AMC never gets back to profitability, I don't think the hedge funds can win. And what I mean by that is I think AMC will be able to survive this downturn in the markets. After all, they're not raising capital in the way that they were. So who even cares about the stock price at that point? If people are actually going to movie theaters, they will be able to survive onto the back end half. Hopefully not back in half of 2023. Hopefully it's the first couple months of 2023. They can last to that point, and then that's when you could see real liquidity start to dry up during the crash, and then the subsequent rally back to the upside. There's a reason why some of these options have been purchased super far out the money, and they're super bullish as well, like this $8 call for January 2024, going in here with about $100,000 position. A lot of activity around the 2024 January $8 calls. It's playing the longer term trade of AMC, and the premiums are very attractive here, guys. If you were looking to make some calls, I'm not going to say, go balls to the walls right now, but these $8 calls for January 2024 are only going for under $100 a piece, $90 a piece. If you really think the MOAS is still going to happen, even if it takes a while, well, you would get paid out fat on these options, and that is your reward for buying when everyone else is fearful. Now, as far as the option activity for the day, 24 orders totaling about $1 million, positive order value of about 40%. So I do think that is better than what it could be, right? Yesterday's positive order value was like 6%. Today it's 40. I think that is a lot better. The stock is down a little bit more today, down about 7.32% at the time of recording this video, guys. Nonetheless, let's take a look at the technical analysis, because it looks like AMC might be hitting that bottom point, and it could be a good reload time for some of those options if you think next week we will get somewhat of a relief rally. And historically speaking, AMC does not tend to fall this much consecutively without a major rally, and you're getting pretty far away from the 50-day moving average as of right now, holding support above the 2022 low of the year. If you hold this low into the end of the day and can actually see a little bit of that end of the day rally sometimes you see on Fridays, especially on big option expirations, which today is a $3.7 trillion option expiration, so shout out volatility. That's what you're seeing in the markets as well. I probably should have said that earlier in the video. But nonetheless, guys, if you stay above $5.05 by the end of the day, I do think next week might be more bullish than not. We're not going to be getting a whole lot of economic data. We're not going to have a whole lot going on. And like I said, you've dropped 8% in 3 days from the peak to the low that we've seen today. Typically, to see a 2-3% bounce next week, that's probably what I would expect. There's not a huge reason for the markets to fully flush out and crash right now because we haven't got earnings yet. We're not in a recession yet. The Fed just raised rates, so that Fed risk is off the table. Part of this move is the market's digesting the Fed, but that risk is off the table. You just got CPI, you just got PPI, you just got retail sales, you just got all this big economic data. There's not going to be much for the next week or two. And that is an opportunity that is primed for a bounce. So me personally, I've cut out a lot of my put positions with some massive profit. Some of these positions I've had for months now, you know, they can come back to life, and that's what I have done, is cut out those profits. Not on AMC, obviously. I'm not going to trade puts on AMC. It's not even worth it at this level. But the S&P, Apple, some of those puts, you know, they have done very well. I am prepared to go either way starting next week, but I'm leaning more to a bullish bounce than to this continued drop. Nonetheless, other factors on AMC you might want to know is that the volume is higher today. We're only about halfway into trading, and the volume is at about 20 million. So that's a little bit higher than we are used to, and today might wrap up a pretty decent volume day after all. If we do take a look at the Stock Tracker data and go ahead and refresh this, you're looking at about 265,000 calls that are out of the money and about 1,300 calls that are currently in the money for today. So that's going to be a big option expiration that basically flopped on us. Very little, virtually no calls in the money compared to out of the money. Next week, same thing, about 1,300 calls that are in the money and about 100,000 calls that are out of the money. A lot less put activity next week than what we are seeing for this week. So just that lack of put activity next week, I think, can really give us a bullish tilt for next week. Like I said earlier in the video, all the economic data is pretty much out the way. The only thing we have left is earnings, and they're going to start to come in slow and steady until you get to about first 2 weeks of January, and then the last half of January you're going to get the Apples, you're going to get the big companies. But really, until then, a lot of the risk factors are out of the way. And for context, next week, for out of the money calls and out of the money puts, there is 5 times the amount of calls compared to puts. So looking pretty damn bullish in my personal opinion, and that could give us fuel on the fire to see a rally in AMC stock. Guys, that is going to be all for this video. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in that comment section. Baby, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.